What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some crazy battles in the Open Great League featuring a triple inflatable theme team with Quillfish in the lead and a double balloon backline with both Shadow Drifblim and a level 50 Drifloon. And so that it doesn't feel like I'm using the exact same Pokemon twice, I decided to opt for Mystical Fire instead of Icy Wind on the Drifblim. Now this team is obviously very weak to Morpeko, but luckily for me I only saw a couple of them whilst running this team. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which typing do you think could do with an Icy Wind / Mystical Fire / Lunge Clone, and which Pokemon would you like to see get this theoretical move? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, leading Quillfish into Shadow Kanto Marowak. So of course we have Aquitail, but I'm going to swap out of this matchup into my Shadow Drifblim, and unfortunately met with a Bastiodon, which is not so good. I'm actually going to go straight for Mystical Fire here. Mystical Fire is going to be neutral damage up against the Steel and Rock typing. It debuffs their attack, and the opponent also throws their energy straight away. So this is fine with me. Stone Edge will be getting the KO there, but that's okay. We can now come in with the Quillfish, and because I've debuffed them here, I might actually stay in this matchup for a very long time. Fire off a single Aquitail. Now technically I probably could get the KO with two Aquitails, but I think I might as well actually just stay in, overfarm massively, wait for them to throw, use a shield here, because I realize that my Quillfish, if I just load up on energy, will be able to deal with that Marowak in the back. So we go for an Aquitail here, the opponent swaps back into the Marowak, we can grab a shield there, we swap back into our Drifloon, and the opponent's going to fire off a charge move. At this point, I'm definitely just going to respect the damage. The opponent full sends the Rock Slide there. I don't know who wins CMP in this matchup. I assume probably the Marowak, so I'm going to go fire off the Icy Wind, and the opponent is going to no shield. They come back in with the Bastiodon. I'm going to massively overfarm here, throwing on what looks to be a CMP tie. We go straight for the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball is going to get the KO, and they've got a Superior in the back, so I'm going for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind is going to permanently debuff their attack. Icy Wind is going to be no shielded by the opponent, which is unfortunate. We do have an Ice Beam loaded, and we're going to come in with the Quillfish, go straight for Ice Beam, but unfortunately it is shielded there. So at this point the opponent can fire off the charge move. They go for the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant gets the KO there, but remember they are debuffed, and the opponent just settles for an Aerial Ace, which does not get the KO, and Drifloon just barely able to hang on, living with 1 HP and a Dream, firing off the Icy Wind, taking out Superior, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to open their into next battle, see Quillfish into a Shadow Jumpluff. So a good lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to say swap into Dunsparce. Now unfortunately Dunsparce is a very difficult Pokemon to deal with this team. Unfortunately, Quillfish going to be weak to the Drill Run, and of course my backline just really does not want to see a Dunsparce at all. They're going to resist the Astonish damage, as well as hitting for super effective damage with both the rollouts and the Rock Slides. We're going to stay in with the Quillfish here, and then I might try and catch the next Drill Run onto my Shadow Drifblim. So we go for another Aquitail there. I'm expecting the opponent to try and throw on good timing, and they do exactly that. Have we caught a Drill Run? Yes, we have. That is double resisted, and we're actually able to put them into Astonish farm down range, which is huge for me. But unfortunately for me, they've got a Licky in the back, so running double normal rollout users, not great for my backline whatsoever. We go for the Mystical Fire, and the opponent actually allows me to reach a second Mystical Fire here, so we get the double debuff. At this point, I'm not going to bother shielding, of course, and the opponent's going to go straight for a Body Slam, so I'm actually going to swap out of that matchup into my Quillfish. They are double debuff. Shadow Ball not going to do much, but they full send an Earthquake, which now makes sense as to why they didn't throw their energy up against my Drifloon, because everything was double resisted. So now we've got a win condition here. We're going to shoot up the Aerial Ace, as I realize they can only throw Body Slams or Earthquakes up against us with that Licky. So we go for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind doesn't quite put them into farm down range before they reach another Aerial Ace. And Aerial Ace, it is debuffed. It doesn't do too much damage here. Of course, these rollouts will add up over time as they are super effective, but I can now permanently debuff them with the Icy Wind. And at this point, they're probably going to have to full send an Earthquake here. Body Slam not going to do much damage whatsoever. They go for the Earthquake. It still doesn't get the KO. We come in with the Drifblim, and we are just barely able to Astonish, farm down the Licky, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to open their into next battle, another Shadow Kanto Marowak in the lead. We're going to say swap into our Drifblim. The opponent actually does not throw any energy there, and they swap out very late into a Dugong, but we've got such a huge energy advantage. I can reach back-to-back Mystical Fires before they even reach an Icy Wind. Mystical Fire number 2 gonna be no shielded, and that is huge for me because now I can just shield this up even with a debuff to my attack. That Icy Wind won't allow them to reach another charge move as we get the full Astonish farm down. We flip switch advantage, and they come in with a Corviknight. Now, of course, we are debuffed, but Mystical Fire going to hit for super effective damage. We're going to swap out here, and that honestly backfired instantly. I didn't really mean to do that, especially not as a counter swap to their swap into the Marowak, but it forces them to throw their energy straight away, which might be helpful for me if we can come in and get a full Astonish farm down with the Drifloon here. I'm definitely just going to shield this, respect the damage, and it is the Rock Side, and the opponent was not at back-to-back Rock Sides. Huge for me. Now, again, we can permanently debuff them with the Icy Wind, and of course, they are hitting for double resisted sand attack damage, and we've got a monstrous HP stat here, so they are doing basically no damage whatsoever. We go for a second Icy Wind. I realize now they will not be able to farm down the Shadow Drifloon, so I'm forcing them to throw their energy. They go for an Iron Head there. They get the KO, but it's game over. 2 Sky Attacks, honestly, from this range will not get the KO now that they're double debuffed. They're not going to reach a second move anyways. We're able to get the Astonish farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there. Into the next battle, we see a Talonflame in the lead. So, the opponent is going to stay in initially here. So, we're going to farm up to 7, but the opponent actually swaps into a Primeape. So, this is fine with me. Going to fire off the Arctotail here. Arctotail is going to connect. Now, we can come in with our Shadow Drifloon. We will have to tank a charge move, but I don't really mind that. We can now just let the Rage Fist go through, go for the Astonish farm down, but they come in and hard punish us with a Dunsparce, and now things are not looking great. This is where things really can go bad here, as the opponent can go for a huge farm down. We just barely missed out on reaching a second Mystical Fire. If we made it to the second move there, maybe we would have been okay, but even then, it's still going to be very difficult for us. The opponent can go for a Rock Side. Luckily for me, I should be able to tank 2 of these, but the opponent's actually going to swap, make a very nice catch there, catching the Icy Wind onto Talonflame there. I mean, this will now put them into Arctotail range. However, it just doesn't really matter here. We can go for the Arctotail. Arctotail will be grabbing the first shield from the opponent. I'm also going to match shields here, but that Dunsparce is absolutely loaded on energy, so basically the opponent's just going to waste time here, counting down the switch clock here until they can swap out of this matchup and snipe with a Drill Run. So yeah, not a lot we can do here. We can shield up the fly, and there they go. They are able to snipe with the Dunsparce. Drill Run gets the KO there, and of course one more rollout, sorry, will be reaching a Rock Side, and Rock Side is super effective. It takes out the Drifloon, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to up over there. Into the next battle, we see a Tentacruel in the lead. So I'm actually going to say swap into my Shadow Drifloon straight away. Maybe I could have stayed in there, built up a ton of energy, waited for them to throw their energy, and then swapped out there, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to shield the school. They do not get... Oh, never mind. They do get the debuff. It just doesn't show it straight away. We're going to go straight for a Shadow Ball here, and Shadow Ball is unfortunately shielded by the opponent. We can now fire off a Mystical Fire. We will just barely reach the Mystical Fire before they do reach a second Scald, and it does debuff their attack, so maybe we live this. But unfortunately, it doesn't really help us, as they're still able to Poison Jab farm us down. So we're now going to come in with the Drifloon, go for the Astonish farm down. The fact they didn't swap out there means that maybe they are weak to the Drifloon in the back. So we're going to come in and go for a shield here as they fire off a Rage Fist. They're going to boost up their attack. I'm just going to debuff them straight away and go for an Icy Wind. I'll then go for one more Astonish and then swap into my Quillfish. Now, of course, Rage Fist not going to do too much damage in this matchup. The opponent is going to bank some energy. They actually swap out just before we reach the Arctotail there. Well, as we do reach the Arctotail there, into a Diggersby. Now, here, I could have gone for the Ice Beam. I just wasn't entirely sure that I would have made it, so I settle for the Arctotail. Honestly, it doesn't really make a difference. I won't be able to Astonish farm them down from this range. They go for a Scorching Sands there, but now I need to overfarm. I realize that Primeape is one Karate Chop away from the charge move, so if they try to snipe here, I can't be stuck in the Astonish animation. I'm going to wait, fire off the Icy Wind as I see the swap there, get the KO, and of course Fire Punch, not going to do much damage from the Diggersby here, so I can of course just go straight for the BM with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball going to hit for double resisted damage, but it just does not matter. It gets the KO up against the Diggersby, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, we see Bibarel in the lead. So, not really ideal for us here, but these Poison Stings will start to add up over time, and we are so spammy with these Arctotails. So, I'm going to shield the first charge move as they go for a Hyper Fang. We have now farmed up to a potential Sludge Wave. Maybe we'll grab a shield here. I'm not really sure. Arctotail is going to be no-shielded by the opponent, which is unfortunate, but we can fire off a second Arctotail here. Arctotail number 2 actually is going to be shielded. Then we try to swap and catch a Hyper Fang, and it massively backfires as the opponent holds onto the energy. And now this is really not good for us. They go for a Surf. We will just barely live that and fire off a Mystical Fire. And from this range, it's actually going to grab the final shield from the opponent. And if they don't throw straight away, we are just one Poison Sting away from an Aqua Tail. So the opponent makes a mistake there. They had so much energy, but I can get the KO with the Aqua Tail, taking out the Barrel. They come in with a Corviknight. We're going to swap into our Drifloon here, and they will reach back-to-back charge moves before I can put them into Shadow Ball range. So I'm going to shield the first charge move here, but then I'm going to overfarm. I don't want to throw straight away. I don't know what they've got in the back yet, so we're going to tank the Sky Attack, and the opponent's going to swap into Annihilate, and we can go straight for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball doesn't quite get the one shot, but one more Astonish gets the KO there. We come out with another Shadow Ball loaded, and Shadow Ball, again, won't quite get the one shot there, but one more Astonish takes out the Corviknight, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top on there. Into next battle, we see a Wigglytuff in the lead. So, this is a good matchup for us. The opponent's going to say swap into a Goodra, and I'm just going to stay in and go straight for an Ice Beam here. Ice Beam, if it does go unshielded, nearly gets the one shot, but unfortunately, it just barely doesn't. So, I'm forced to shield here. The opponent does reach a Thunder Punch at the last second, and now they've got a Quagsire in the back. Unfortunately, against any other Mud Boy user, then I would have been fine, but Stone Edge will get the one shot. I didn't want to go all shields down straight away there, so I didn't shield there, and now unfortunately I don't have the alignment that I want because our switch clocks are massively misaligned. So I can go straight for an Icy Wind here. Icy Wind is actually going to grab a shield from the opponent. You can see I'm trying to swap out, but it's just nowhere near up yet. So we go for another Icy Wind here. Icy Wind number 2 is going to be no shielded. We can now come in with the Quillfish, fire off one Poison Sting, go straight for the Aqua Tail. The opponent does actually no shield that, and hopefully I've put them into range where I can farm them down. But again, switch clocks are misaligned, so the opponent can just swap back into their Quagsire. We go for an Aqua Tail here, but it doesn't really matter. Aqua Tail is going to be shielded by the opponent, and I can't even live an Aqua Tail at this range, I don't think. Aqua Tail actually just barely doesn't take us out there. One more Mud Shot does the job, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG so far there. Into next battle, we see a Clodsire in the lead. The opponent's going to say swap into a Shadow for Alligator. Now, I do not have a response here, but I can chip with these Aqua Tails. First Aqua Tail is actually going to be shielded by the opponent, which is very interesting. And we can go straight for Aqua Tail number 2. Aqua Tail number 2 is going to be no shielded this time around. I'm going to no shield. I've now put them into range where I can just Astonish farm them down with my Drifblim. So that's what we're going to go for. Unfortunately, they will reach a charge speed, but that's okay. We've already grabbed a shield with an Aqua Tail from our Quillfish, so I'm happy to shield there. Go for the Astonish farm down, and they come in with a Superior, and that's fine with me. For some reason, I go straight for the Shadow Ball here. I kind of expected they would not shield, but they do shield. And of course, Shadow Ball does do more damage than a Mystical Fire or an Icy Wind, but they shield anyways. Doesn't really make a difference here. I can now go for the Mystical Fire, and the fact they came in with Superior pretty much guarantees that they are on Sludge Bomb and Earthquake on their Clodsire, in which case, Drifloon is going to be absolutely fine right now. As we come in, we go for the Astonish farm down. They swap into the Clodsire there. They're not throwing their charge move straight away, and I do throw on poor timing, but it just doesn't really matter at this point. Icy Wind is going to be no shielded by the opponent. They realize they've got nothing to throw, so they're just going to concede the match. So GG so far in their next battle, we see a Hakamoa in the lead. So this is sort of awkward matchup for us. They will just barely outpace us before we do reach an Ice Beam. So I'm going to shield this at the last second, as Quillfish is very glassy. We're now going to go and throw the Ice Beam, and then I will be swapping into my Drifblim. Drifblim, of course, only has Mystical Fire and not Icy Wind, so I will have to full send a Shadow Ball to get the KO up against this Hakamoa, or maybe put them into range where Mystical Fire will get the KO, but I don't think this is quite range, so we're going to go and full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will be getting the KO there, but unfortunately we are very low to the point where they can farm us down with even resisted Poison Stings from a Clodsire, as we just barely miss out on the Mystical Fire, and that is really unfortunate for us. We're now going to come in with the Quillfish. We're going to go straight for an Aqua Tail here, and hopefully this is another Clodsire that is just on Sludge Bomb and Earthquake, but I'm going to stay in anyways. We're going to shield this, and they do full send the Earthquake there before swapping into a Corviknight. Now, honestly, maybe I should have thrown a charge speed before swapping out, but either way, we come in with our Drifloon. The opponent goes for an Iron Head there. You can see I will be able to live another Iron Head. However, if they go for the Sky Attack next time around, unfortunately, that probably will take us out. So maybe should have gone for an Icy Wind there. Debuff their attack, just mean that I would be able to survive the next charge move, but Sky Attack takes us out there with one more Sand Attack. We can come in here. I'm going to farm up as much as possible for the last possible second here as we go for an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail gets the KO there, and we do reach back-to-back Aqua Tails, but will an Aqua Tail be enough damage to get the KO from this range? It's a CMP tie. It's going to be close, but Aqua Tail just barely doesn't quite get the KO there, and unfortunately, whatever they throw here will be enough to take us out. They were on Sludge Bomb after all, but unfortunately for us, we do lose that game. But GG, so per there, into the next battle, we see a Malamar in the lead. So going to say swap into my Shadow Drifloon. Unfortunately, Malamar is also a core breaker to this team, but we're going to see Azumarill coming in. So if we go straight for Shadow Ball, and if Shadow Ball is going to be no-shielded by the opponent, then we've actually put ourselves in a decent position here, because now we can come in with our Quillfish and go for a huge Poison Sting farm down. We will have to tank a Charge Move, but we do resist everything that Azumarill can throw, and as well, we're going to get a lot of energy when we get this farm down as well, so not the worst thing ever. We're, of course, going to no-shield as they just settle for an Ice Beam. I think they would have made it to a play rough, but now they come back in with the Malamar. So we go for an Aqua Tail straight away, and then I will swap straight away into my Drifloon as the opponent comes in with their own Shadow Drifblim. We are ahead on energy, so I can go straight for an Icy Wind. However, unfortunately, they're going to deal more damage here, even with a debuff to their attack. They can go for that Astonish farm down. Now, my win condition here is just going for a full Poison Sting farm down, coming out with basically 100 energy, and then hopefully throwing 3 Aqua Tails into the Malamar that comes in, because unfortunately, of course, we're now double debuffed. These Aqua Tails, they're not going to do much damage up against the Malamar. I will need to land 2 of them, so we go for the first one. Aqua Tail number 1 grabs the final shield, and we do reach back Aqua Tails here. The first one deals about half their remaining health, but unfortunately, it was a CMP tie there, meaning just one more turn difference, and I could have reached back Aqua Tails, got the KO, but unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG, so upon there, into the next battle, we see a Shelgon. So very spicy Pokemon from the opponent there. I'm going to go straight for the Ice Beam. I expect they're probably going to shield this, so I will swap out into my Drifblim straight away if it does. Oh, sorry, into my Drifloon there. And we're met with a Vullaby. So what on earth is this team from the opponent? I'm being outspiced right now. We go for an Icy Wind here. Icy Wind is going to connect, and unfortunately, it doesn't do that much damage there. You can see my Drifloon IVs are 12, 15, 14. I do actually have a hundo, and I wanted to invest in it, but unfortunately, it just costs so much Stardust. It's like 500 plus K because it's quite a low level as well. So I just invested in a Lucky that I got recently. But we do just barely hang on there to the foul play. We're now going to swap straight away into the Quillfish. And unfortunately for them, Twister is an absolutely rubbish move. So Quillfish, a glassy Pokemon, able to hang on there just barely, fire off the Aqua Tail. And that Aqua Tail is huge because now we can come in with our Drifblim, go for the Astonish farm down, and they've got a Haxorus with counter in the back. So props to that opponent, very spicy team. But unfortunately for them, it doesn't work out for them as we had a Drifblim to counter the counter Haxorus, and I'm able to take that game. But GG, so when they're into the next battle, we see a... I can't even remember what they led with, but we say swapped into our Drifloon, and we're met with a Shadow Drapion. Now, they don't get the debuff with Crunch, which means hopefully after an Icy Wind debuff, I can just barely live the next charge move here. They will outpace me, and they do throw it immediately. So the opponent goes for Crunch there, and we do just barely hang on. We can fire off the Icy Wind here. Icy Wind should be grabbing a shield back from the opponent, and it does exactly that. Now we come in with the Quillfish here. I'm going to no-shield this. I should now live 2 crunches as long as they don't get the debuff, but they actually swap back into their Annihilate. So we're going straight for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is going to be shielded by the opponent. And this point, honestly, I was hoping they would throw it a bit sooner than that, so I would just be able to swap into my Drifblim straight away. But unfortunately, they do overfarm, and they overfarm just about enough to reach another charge move up against my Drifblim. So unfortunately, I have to shield the boosted Rage Fist. The opponent has a Dugong in the back. I feel like it's a pretty clear thing that the opponent will try and swap and make a catch here, but honestly, it didn't really matter. A Shadow Ball from the Drifblim unfortunately wouldn't get the KO from this range anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But Icy Wind takes out the Drifblim, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG, so by there, into the next battle, we see a Shadow Venusaur in the lead. So I'm going to say swap into my Drifblim, and unfortunately met with an Electrode. So not a Pokemon you see every day. Unfortunately, not great for us, but Mystical Fire is going to grab a shield advantage in this matchup, and at this point, I kind of have to just let the Drift Blim go down. We have debuff their attack, so I can come in with my Quillfish, and if I go for an Aqua Tail straight away, I should win CMP here, so I actually won't need to use a shield unless the opponent wants to double shield their Electrode. So we go for Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is actually going to be shielded by the opponent, so I'm definitely going to shield now, as the opponent is going to go for another discharge there, and we are going to see, we're going to overfarm in this matchup. The opponent actually swaps back into their Shadow Venusaur. I'm going straight for Ice Beam. Ice Beam, going to hit for super effective damage. It gets the KO there, and they come in with a Shadow for Alligator. Now, honestly, I was a bit slow to swap out there, and that might have been a mistake, but we're going to shield up the Hydro Cannon, and unfortunately, because I was so slow, I will not reach a Shadow Ball. I'm going to have to settle for an Icy Wind. Icy Wind will be debuffed for their attack, and luckily for me, the opponent isn't going to overfarm by much. The opponent will be going for an Ice Beam. Ice Beam gets the KO there. We're now going to throw the Aqua Tail just before the opponent reaches another discharge. Aqua Tail gets the KO, and can we reach another Aqua Tail? We just barely are able to do so. Up against this for Alligator, and of course, Aqua Tail gets the KO from that range, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, we see a Primeape in the lead. So, we are going to be staying in this matchup, but the opponent safe swaps into Dugong. Now, honestly, this is not really ideal for me. Of course, I just don't have an answer to Dugong whatsoever. So, what I normally do here is I'm going to stay in with the Quillfish, just go straight for Aqua Tail, and hopefully put them into a range where I can come in with my Drift Blim, catch a potential Drill Run, and Astonish, farm them down. So, we go for another Aqua Tail there. I'm going to go for another Aqua Tail here, just because I want to make sure the opponent can throw one Ice Shard, and then go for the Drill Run, so I can swap, make the catch into my Drift Blim here, and the opponent is going to go for the Drill Run. That's double resisted, but they come in with a Thunder Fang Steelix, which is definitely not ideal for me. I figured if I go straight for a Mystical Fire here, they might no-shield this, thinking it's an Icy Wind, but no, they do end up shielding that, and that is really unfortunate. At this point, I'm also going to have to shield. They go for a Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe doesn't get my debuff here, but it doesn't really matter as they're going to shield anyways. As we go for another Mystical Fire, I'm now going to swap back into the Quillfish. The opponent will be firing off a Charge Move. They're double debuff. Psychic Fangs doesn't actually do that much damage there, but I overfarmed too much. I don't know what I was thinking there. I mean, I expected them to catch anyways, which is why I was overfarming. However, they still make the catch anyways, and now they come in with a Primeape. So here, I should have realized I'm not reaching back-to-back Aqua Tails. Should have just gone for the Ice Beam there, as they're able to Karate Chop farm me down. Now at this point, we're going to come in with our Drifloon here. I will need to catch a Charge Move from this Primeape. I might as well let the first one go through. Rage Fist is going to hit for super effective damage. We're now going to swap. We wait one turn. We swap into our Drifloon. Catch the next Rage Fist there. But the opponent can swap out already into the Steelix. They've already got the Charge Move loaded. The opponent fires off the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe is unfortunately going to put us into Thunderfang farm down range. Icy Wind will not get the KO there. And unfortunately, they can just farm us down. So, GG's top on there. Into the next battle, we see another Primeape in the lead. So, we are going to once again stay in this matchup. And again, they're going to safe swap into a Dugong. So, pretty similar scenario here. I'm going to stay in. I'm going to shield the first Charge Move just because it's kind of awkward knowing if they're going to throw a Drill Run straight away. But usually, they will throw that second Drill Run immediately as they reach the energy for it. So, we're going to stay in here. Going to shield up the first move. I don't think a single Dugong actually baited me with an Icy Wind, which is nice. But now we can swap, catch the next one onto my Shadow Drift Blim as they go for the Drill Run. Now, unfortunately here, I did not throw that third Aqua Tail, so they're not quite in farm down range, but I can go for a Mystical Fire, winning CMP, and Mystical Fire will get the KO. They now come in with a Shadow Jumpluff, which is fine with me. We're now going to throw another Mystical Fire here, and Mystical Fire is going to be shielded by the opponent. They can overfarm massively, and they are doing so, but at this point, I can just let my Drift Blim go down. The opponent fires off the Energy Ball, which means they are probably running Acrobatics as their secondary charge move, but they debuff, so I'm going to no-shield this. The opponent will be full sending the Acrobatics there, and then swapping back into their Primeape. Now, we have a ton of energy on the Quillfish, so I'm going to catch the Rage Fist here, go for an Aqua Tail on the CMP tie, and Aqua Tail should be no-shielded by the opponent. I can now overfarm throwing just before they reach the next charge move on their Primeape, and Aqua Tail number 2 will be no-shielded there. We're going to farm up to the potential Ice Beam, bait with an Aqua Tail here, and hopefully, if the opponent commits to a full farm down, I should just barely reach another Aqua Tail in time, and this is resisted damage, but from this range, it gets the KO up against the Shadow Jumpluff, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into next battle, we can see a Talonflame in the lead. So, a good lead matchup for me once again. And the opponent is going to choose to stay in here. So, we're going straight for the Aquatail here, throwing after 7 Poison Stings, throwing on good timing. The opponent going to use their shield there. So, I'm definitely also going to use my shield, as the opponent is going to go for a Flame Charge. So, I realized here I can actually farm up 2 back-to-back Aquatails here. And this Aquatail probably going to grab the final shield, but I can just go for another Aquatail straight away, winning CMP. And from this range, Aquatail actually doesn't quite get the KO there, which is honestly quite surprising to me. I thought that would be a guaranteed KO, but they go for a Flame Charge again, so I can actually just snipe with my Drifblim. They come in with a Wigglytuff, which is definitely not ideal to see since my Quillfish is very low. However, we do have a shield advantage. We go straight for Mystical Fire here, and I realized I might as well just stay in with my Drifblim, shield this up here, and then go for another Mystical Fire. They will debuff my attack, but it doesn't really matter. Mystical Fire should put them into range where I can just Astonish, farm them down with the Drifloon before they do reach another Icy Wind. So at this point, that's exactly what we're going to go for here. I'm going to wait out the Switch Clock, come in with the Drifloon. The opponent realizes they're going to get farmed down there, so they swap into a Serperior, and that should be game over. We go straight for Icy Wind. Icy Wind is going to be no-shielded by the opponent as they have no shields remaining. They're going to go for a Frenzy Plant, which is the correct play there, but it doesn't really matter. We can reach Icy Wind number 2 before they do reach another charge move. Icy Wind gets the KO there, and we can just go for the Astonish farm down, taking out the Wigglytuff, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top over, into next battle, see Annihilate in the lead once again. So, going to say swap into the Shadow Drifblim, and we're met with a Shadow for Alligator. Now, they will outpace me to the first charge move here, but I can actually just shield this, go for a Mystical Fire, and honestly, in the 2-shield scenario, I should still be able to go for a full Astonish farm down, so we might go for that here, as we do, of course, debuff their attack. But I'm actually going to no-shield this, so maybe that is a mistake. Maybe I should have fought hard for switch advantage. But we can come in with the Quillfish. They come back in with their Annihilate, and I'm going to throw an Aquatail on the CMP tie here. Aquatail probably not going to do that much damage, and it is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. But we're also going to no-shield this, swap into our Drifloon now as they throw their energy, and they've got a Wigglytuff in the back. So in hindsight, I should have fought for switch advantage there, because Quillfish has a very good matchup up against a Wigglytuff. But unfortunately, I didn't know it was going to be a Wigglytuff in the back. And so here, what I also should have done is overfarmed a lot more before throwing these Icy Winds, because unfortunately, I'm just giving them more energy. So they get the farm down there. Of course, those Astonishes, they don't really add up at all, so it doesn't make a difference. But maybe if I put them into range where, well, if they weren't able to farm me down as much, they wouldn't have been able to reach back-to-back charges there. Maybe I could have reached back-to-back Aquatails up against the Annihilate. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So GG's to opponent there. Into next battle, we see a Feraligatr in the lead. So we're going to stay in this matchup. Once again, not really ideal for this team. However, we can just go straight for Aquatails. What I will do is no-shield the first charge move, and then eventually I will swap out into my Shadow Drifblim after probably landing the next Aquatail. So we're going to throw it straight away here into the Feraligatr, and then I will swap out into my Drifblim as we can shield once and then go for a full Astonish farm down. Now, the Astonish goes through, so I will get the KO here, and the opponent is going to come in with a Talonflame. I'm going to reach a Shadow Ball, but I'm actually going to bait with a Mystical Fire. I feel like this is a fairly good bait here, as we can grab the shield, and the opponent overfarms, allowing me to make it to another Mystical Fire. And whilst they realize now at this point that Mystical Fire is going to be resisted, they're going to have to throw a charge move, otherwise I will be able to farm them down. So they go for a Fly there, and they do have back-to-back charge moves, but they swap out straight away into Clodsire, and this is fine with me. We can fire for an Aquatail. Most of the Clodsire that I've seen today were on Sludge Bomb and Earthquake, but I'm gonna play it safe anyways. Shield the move, and they are on Stone Edge this time around, which isn't ideal. However, I can now reach an Icy Wind before they do reach Stone Edge number 2. Icy Wind, gonna grab that final shield, and it's gonna debuff their attack. And we've put them into range where an Aquatail should get the KO. So I expect the opponent to swap back into Talonflame, go for the snipe there, but that's absolutely okay with me. We can now come in with the Quillfish, get the Poison Sting farm down, reach an Aquatail up against the Clodsire, and of course, from this range, Aquatail will be getting the KO this time around, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top on there. Into next battle, we see a Jumpluff in the lead. So this is fine with me. Once again, we are going to stay in this matchup. And again, the opponent's going to say swap into a Dugong. So not really ideal for me here. But again, we're just going to play this out by shooting the first charge and then swapping to catch the next draw run onto my Drifblim. So I'm going to go for Aquatail number 2 here. Aquatail will get them close to the yellow health range, but that's okay. We're now going to shield the charge move as they do full send the drill run there. I'm going to go for 3, then fire off the Aquatail, which means or sorry, 4, and then fire off the Arctoil, which means they are 1 away from the draw run. So again, we're going to swap into our Shadow Drifblim, catching the charge move. But this time, they actually go for the Icy Wind there. Very smart on their end. And unfortunately, they've got Morpeko in the back anyway. So even if I did catch the Draw on there, I think we would have lost anyways, as they go straight for a Psychic Fangs. Although I guess they would have had to go for Aura Wheel, which probably would have been worse for me. But either way, we're going to fire off an Arctoil here. I need them to no shield. Of course, they're not going to do that. Psychic Fangs probably will get the KO from this range. It does take out the Quillfish, and that's going to be game over. There's just nothing Drifloon can do, unfortunately. So I'm going to no-shield. This will just be another Psychic Fangs, but even if I let this go through, they can just put me into range where, well, they can just go for another Psychic Fangs here, or just go for a full Thundershock farm down. So either way, I'm going to no-shield. Psychic Fangs, again, just barely doesn't take us out there, but one more Thundershock does the job, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG so far there into the final battle of this video, leading into another Shadow for Alligator. So again, going to stay in this matchup. I'm going to go straight for the Arctoil here, throw on the potential CMP tie with the Hydro Cannon, and Arctoil is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. We put them into the yellow health range at this point, so I actually probably won't need to throw another Arctoil here. Instead, we can, well, never mind, the opponent's going to swap out instead into their Mana Buzz, and now we can go straight for the Ice Beam, dealing big damage, swapping into the Drifloon, and of course, I'm going to shield the first charge move here, as the opponent is going to go and full send the Dark Pulse there. We can now overfarm, throw the Icy Wind on the CMP tie with the next Dark Pulse, and Icy Wind from this range hopefully will get the KO there, but it's actually going to grab a shield instead, so that's fine with me. I've now debuffed them. I should live a Dark Pulse, and I do live the Dark Pulse. The opponent instead going to swap back into their for Alligator, snipe with a Hydro Cannon, but I think they're in range where I can just go for a full Astonish farm down with my Shadow Drifblim. So we go for the farm down, and we get that farm down in time, which is very nice. The opponent is now going to come in with a Ferrothorn, and I'm running Mystical Fire, so I'm throwing it straight away here. And honestly, Mystical Fire probably would get the one shot there, as it is double super effective, but unfortunately the opponent does end up shielding. It doesn't really matter. They bait with a Power Whip, also fine with me. I'm now going to overfarm here. They are definitely in range where a Mystical Fire will get the KO, and we've overfarmed enough to reach another Mystical Fire up against the Ferrothorn coming back in, and of course from this range, Mystical Fire, double super effective, easily gets the KO up against the Ferrothorn, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.